house, we want you to draw many windows. And when you draw the windows, think back to your childhood when you were little kids.
3 years ago, 15 teenage boys with serious behavioral problems voluntarily joined an innovative therapy group. It's run by clinical psychologist Johanna Kisner. Most of them had been involved in crime. All of them were at odds with the community. They grew up in Thokoza in the 90s, surrounded by political violence.
Sometimes it's a cheeky them coat or stability just of it as well. Abashayela fela kapatina kabalibona neserbona urbaboda isakamazula
khutlaskele khiwa tholale alele so fitla khumbi fitla ethu yabona
naye khutla se bahlahise dithunya bola ka dile bathunya batho
angazuba nemisa la awuthekona thema iwavela basababhala nithi ngabe fakitayo la iphuzi petrol baphuzi yabona iphuzi petrol akhona beqeda ukuphuza bayigaya ukwa bathila itukwa yabona and itukwa abantu mayiluku ibhema ukuyasha ngayi yabona avela lapho sebabona khona ukuthi yasha yabona abayiqala kabuda bayicala khona bethela ni ipetrol ke
indaba yazi kanjani besihlala silapho yabona around ilocation besingaphumi sike siye kwindawo ezinye yabona la ku right khona besihlala se experience into violent.
So the boys would have been 2, 3, 4, 5 years old that time. They would have probably not have, at that age, not have had the cognitive ability to conceptualize around that. So they wouldn't have been able to put it into the context of a war. They wouldn't have been able to kind of create any meaning out of this. They have been damaged by the experiences, but there's hope.
These boys spend every Wednesday afternoon with the staff at Ekupholeni Mental Health Centre. They are learning to talk about themselves, their problems, and the world they are trying to make sense of.
Some came as street children who knew they were stealing to survive. And others sort of almost came as an extended family unit. They come from neighborhoods where there's a strong gang culture, and those were their male role models.
Uyabona atu awuna next wabona ngiyabona machitana libo dithunya bonthonyana tsetsezwa anka ikenya ubona wabona akathola dinyuku full time rebe ditsotsi tsa bona re khona le rona re apare la re je ka ba bona le nna hlophele se iphamata ka tlu bafana bana le bo 13 14 o fitla 15 fela wabona ka ba ke tsona tsene di exposed di thunyeng haholo ka ba magotmane a tsona ana tshwere ngata ba tsona ha ba tshwere so di hotman tsa teng ke tsa makete di sile di thunya tsona tsene se kwela le tsona ka hore di utse thunya tsa di hotman tsa tsona ka ba nna ne ke le ngolonyana o tsona ba ne ke di tshutha se thunya ke sona se kenyang tšhelete wa bona o gona o tshwara po ka speed o tshwere se thunya o bana le self esteem. And
they then look sort of to the peer culture for support and love. And if that peer culture is able to provide that only in kind of negative terms, then they get absorbed into the gang culture. Because the gang culture does provide a place of belonging and loyalty and values within that culture.
It's not just peer pressure that drives the boys towards the gangs. They are also looking for the acceptance, security and love that they aren't getting from their own families.
It's all to thembisa wabona. Ke makriza vela, makriza ka ke ausesinyane. Unta le thembisa mara na sa dule mathala wabona. Ne ba sa dule ba dithu ba qabana. A qeta vela at least ka mo makriza on tswa le tsikara le teng anlahla ya bona nna jwanong ka tlhomonna ntle life e ke phela no se bua ka yona deep ho yona vele matalo wa ka anqa ya bona se etsang gore fela ke bone gore nkgothatsa ke ka baka la gore se ke la ntjwetsa gore ga na taba le gore ke ya sekolong ya bone ne ke batla nyo ke ya school fees ntse ke motšhaela gore a ke thole report a ke tsebe gore tlamele beno ke lo bala standard mare jaanong le nna se ke tjetse gore ke tla phela bophelo ba ka ke di-one mare ke nne ke dule ka tlong.
So they never trust adults. They become quite aloof and cynical. They start relying on their own resources. A lot of it has also been that nobody actually bothers to shout at these boys, in a kind of normal parenting ways. Nobody says this is not okay. For me, it's very, very clear is that those children who've had even just a time of reasonable parenting are at much, much lesser risk. There is just a sense of somehow that they're not completely on their own.
seo se jang tlamelo se kgotsofalela ke life ke ntho e tsang ke tenele dipala sefane ke tsamaya le wena teteng monong pintjakane ke va le wena no ke ditshila wena sekolo ne ko wena e tenele wena ke ditshila wena sekolo ke ke something e tshwana le ena bele ke go fitla matshelo le la
uthi nokutinela and bathuna abazali unakutinela kwena abazali because abanye abazali abacabangile abantwana yabo manje kufuneka ukuthi nawe belizamele ngakho indlela
makazini hayi kusamthanda thina abacabangile yabona bayabacabangela ukuthola ukuthi naye umzali akananga
but sometimes
sometimes umunye naye umntana into eshana ngimenzela
sure abanye uthola ukuthi vele iqiniso ntwana akanafoko nawe uyazibonela yabona akathisha kayenzi
dula mona since tse ke dula le mokoko wa ka ya mona makhela ka ke sa dule le yena ba gana go tse keng ke dula entle ke monje ke se free ya bona antato aka keng ne ke sa tsebo kae ena ke botsa makhrezo aka antato aka go kana sa ba tlunjetsa so da dinyo dan kaya problem go ka ka baka mo ntse ke le teng a go tlamelo di tshoma tse o tsamaya re ya bomsimo re ya kae a bua fela ka ntato a yo go moae so ne ke fida pain man next up lo me le bona
mo fete ke mo go balang teng ya bona go lo ke ba ntshotsa ka tse go botsa ka be le sponge ya le di dikuba ntle fela ke ya ke ale hantle ya bona na wa sheba mo na ke ntelele nyana ya bona la ke dina bana ba iso ba ithuba lo ke ba go bala ma mashimane ya bona tsola na ko mama ko ba di create.
The lack of family structure and the influence of gangs resulted in the boys' inability to commit to anything in their lives. And yet, every Wednesday, week after week, they came to Ekupholeni.
These boys came back, and I'm not sure. I think they were looking for something. I mean, I think there was a sense that maybe there could be some kind of a meeting of needs and meeting of souls here. I don't know what it is they picked up. And I think then it just developed into a place that we belong to, whether we like it or not. Also a place where you can come to and confess. Or say, I'm in trouble, can you help me?
sometimes they tell you straightly to say go and do some crime.
But can you go and do some crime?
Yeah.
Masandile thusa ku Islambi. Zosana bafuta na zamini tina skwatala mele sana so zamini.
So what could you charge or sometimes
when you feel like sometimes na feel it because ngazi ukuthi isikhathi akanako bese isikhathi onako just asitele ngahlukisana so zamela la sibako.
Sometimes you feel like you're still a child. You still need protection, somebody to look after you.
You end up doing such a things, doing crime. Sure.
If maybe umama kwakusendile ukuthi hamba siphande nami ukuthi mawubuye kophando ukuphethe ukudla lebuye umuntu ikhoza oza nayo uyayidla nayo.
Yeah, sometimes people eat it. Mina mama mntana kho ayenza lidende yakhe nafana. Oya phela noma ngiphethe nyamnika phela uzoyenza ngahlupheka mfika. Ngeka lala yabo.
We have to try to get something and give to your mom.
But if you get something from crime,
Yeah, you can give it to your mom to eat because your mom is going to die. You have money in there for them. You must give it to her.
Once a year, the boys go away for a weekend of intensive therapy. At this year's camp, there was a betrayal within the group.
Somebody here has been lying, and this is a very, 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 very serious problem.
Ngicela that person othethe cellphone yami makayilethe ngoba ngithengile nami le cellphone and in the first thing inhliziyo yami ibuhlungu sahlupheka sonke emhlabeni so I don't know why lo muntu ethathe ifoni yami uyithatheleni or usuke vele lapha esuke kube ezitshela ukuthi uzotshontsha or what I don't know.
You know what? Flora has been looking after you last year and this year. She's been like a mother in the kitchen. She wants to use that cell phone to communicate with people she loves. So this is not just about a cell phone, this is about a human being.
But if uthola ukuthi umama umuntu omunye la bese osathenda naye group bekazofila kanjani or uthola ukuthi ke mwa rona o sebetsa kae kae ha tlo go jwetsa rona hae or ba mo nketse phone ke batho
ke ngicabanga
ngona mthankile phone a and now ro sheba vela ke motho bua nnete jwana ona le di feelings is ka rona wena ona taba ka o tswetsa le zamba go hlanya la phone ke kae
Can we tell Flora that by 12 o'clock she will have her phone back?
nye ke retse show ka ba tse
I don't know.
Okay.
No, it's
better who've got the
call the cops.
Why don't you call the cops and
Okay.
call that cell phone?
Call the cops.
I will start the cops ba na ba tla go.
We are first going to ask everybody to be decent human beings, okay? And we're going to ask that person to come forward. If it's not back by 12 o'clock, we're going to call the police.
Confronted by Flora's tears and the group's anger, two of the boys own up.
Because again,
Where is the cell phone?
okay, I said the nyanje lento zoba simple ne.
Mara khathi sila.
Ikhadi lahle. Okay, sizoyibheka la sifuna. Alright, asambe siyothatha
Bring it here.
Okay, let's
Sizongena ngaphakathi kuyena ne. Okay, Luyanda, you can go back inside.
No, Luyanda come.
No, Buyani.
They thought that the cell phone was for the white man, the big white man there.
I don't care if it's for the white man, the black lady, the green man, the purple man. Stealing is stealing. It was a very difficult weekend for me in that way. And yeah, I was absolutely devastated. I was furious. I was so angry. And it felt like a personal kind of rejection. You know, it felt like it doesn't matter. You know, the last 3 years and the last 3 years of getting to know each other and getting to love each other doesn't matter. It was real anger. And we had to, both sides had to work hard on re-establishing the relationship afterwards. But it was saying, this is not okay and it makes me really angry. And I care enough about you to be absolutely pissed off. And you've let me down and you've disappointed me. And, you know, all those things that are actually very unpedagogical. But I think they have a place in a context of love. And that nobody actually says this to the boys. The kind of value system around that incident still worries me a lot. It doesn't matter if white people lose cell phones. And I think that's a deeply entrenched code somewhere that we haven't got through. Developmentally at this stage now where they should be making a whole lot of late adolescence and adult choices. But contextually and socially and every other way, they have very few choices. We will never say they have no choices, but they have very few choices, largely because of poverty and because there's nobody to support them through choices. So the choices that adolescents normally face of career or continuing education or job or volunteer work or are largely close to them.
Always I'm looking at whatever. End up recounting ama-blog umanje so balidina senzimala amazenkulambili yabona sisithanda uzoenda kwasophuma vele Thokoza vele ayikho enye into nabazi ukuhlala ubalana namazenki nayo yonke into ngasendlini ayikho into ozoyenza sisithanda.
But for ikusasa lakho uthi ujwana okusiza ukuthi
ikusasa lakho yini sisithanda ulambile namhlanje yabona wathi udluleka thanga udluleka namhlanje udluleka kusasa.
We don't really understand what it means to be hungry, do we? I mean,
I don't think I understand. I think one doesn't understand if you still have the money to buy that loaf of bread or to provide for your children. I often try and imagine what it must be like for a mother not to be able to feed for her baby. And that is sort of the most basic nurturing need a mother has. I think that must kill something in a mother's soul, in a parent's or mother's soul.
Afitla vositena kwalela la ka senture stoke sekillang ka sona sa tshwe ke tla lena simple then kuthetsa na rona ngino ga etsa so Tswego wa baby au pa tšhelete au dithuto ya le ya tshwarisa.
When you were robbing that lady, did you have a little voice in your head saying, what is Gloria and Johanna going to say, or the other boys, what are they going to say?
I know the feet. I know the feet. I can do. Ke be re bue re le tswe mona ka hlanga ba sentse re tsa so. A bona ke ba teng ka jwa ene na lesh. Man tswe so I cannot be. Tšhuo pa.
a ga tla ona le voice re nga le bana fela ka ntse ska nahana.
No, ke Satan le ntate Modimo wa tseba.
Jalo ke fe voice e kgolo ha o le Satan le ya Modimo.
No, nka tšhuka ke ya Modimo ya bona. Maka Satan na kong le yena
O le ka tsela tse ngata.
a lotla ka tsela tse dingwe tsa ntshole se o yentse ntho ya bona. So how we do men rise strong when we do men it was strong feta ya Modimo. How we do men.
As a consequence of their actions, Vusi and Simon both spent time in jail.
No, later, I'm fit. Wonder how do you live free? You have one. So only one incapable can answer. No, see him now. The money. Incapable can watch. What bantek money? It's where you can mara steal little thing. I. Tag money ka bona bona tse ba sa tshwara dintwa tse di ngata mfetho. Ngata mpiding twara. Ngela na bo ditšhelete wa bona ntse motho a feta fela ba mtshwara ba mkenya sedenyang ba mokele tšhelete ba mba kapana ka bo diloko ba mba sena ka magaiza wa bona ntse ntwa fela mola tse di ngata ngata ntho tse tsala mola tse dingwe di tlisa bohloko
and so yena keng o la itshola he a bona right bleke ya right se ka hlola re ba batsa ka ntle re ra mola a so tswa teng so le monna wa bona o ka gona o be ya molao a kere mo ka sile la rona ha o so tshwaro wena o sithipa wena wa melwele ngaphakathi yo bona madoda ingwa bona
The actual law enforcement system as far as juveniles is concerned doesn't work. The consequences there for them don't work. Or they become so devastating that they destroy them. Largely, I think it's just been depressive, oppressive. I don't think it's had served much purpose in terms of their recovery, Obviously not in terms of protecting society. So these were the bad choices. Stealing money, drinking beer, smoking, no food, not going to school, doing crime. And the good choices were go to school, work to other people, respect other people, and go to church. Katleko's got a very important one here. Can you see? A good choice. Can you see that one? I love myself. That's the most important choice you can ever make. Why do you think it's the most important choice?
O shebe phelo ba o di-one ntate ka ba ke ntho e delicate e ha i-one nyaka o phela i-two yabo so tlamehile jaanong you must take care of it yabo ntho ntse baya o ba i-one yabo ha o robala o ba i-one la o ngola exam final o ba i-one so tlamehile o ithute gore phelo ba o rata santsane mo ntse o phela yabo gore a se o shwela o na motho a ta o ratang.
Okay, let's hear from you about this choice.
No one never choice it okay na kya etsa life okay manje akusabata nje manje yabona uma kunale di-problems ekunenjalo ke zama ukhe di-share-ke di-problems ezakho yabona yeah so aye nkatsho wabona nthonyana e ke yentseng mo tsetse i-two yabona thanda katsho ka re tse ke ne ke dimo yabona so ne manje ke batla ipona se ke le ka mo ka hodimo yabona a le ntho e nngwe thanda e ke batlang ntle ke manje ipona life nke e tshotse jwang kapa jwang yabona tla etsa ka mokgwa nte ke manje nka kgonang ka teng ke ipone ke le doctor ene jwang kapa jwang ke tlo zama noma ka hloleha mara never ke tla ke kgone ho ke tla hloleha nka kgutlela fela sekolong one day ke kopana le nna sepetlele kae never believe it or ke buse.
One of the saddest things about this project is that the boys have changed, but the context hasn't. You know, and we are not able to change the context for them, the larger context. But nevertheless, we keep on emphasizing that they still have choices. And one of the things we try and teach them is that you knock on many doors, and many doors will stay closed. But you just keep on knocking.
Into ngifuna ukuba yona mina mangikhulu yabona ngifuna ukuba traffic officer 10 sure
Ama-chicken nama-out or
ngifuna ama-out ayi-2 nama-chicken ayi-8.
If you look at the work as an act of doing hope together with a community or group or an individual, if you're doing hope together, then it's possible. You know, you just have to look for. Just like the choices might be tiny, you might have to look for tiny little rays of hope, but they are there.
Kunkulu mayengenza nami nje bengithanda ukuthi ni acte ama movies yabona yeah or story nje ama drama ngazi
everyone imunna watsiba o ishafela ka bana le ntlo ya hae sa dula bo mayor star le family ya e grand wabona ntshengwe le ngwe le khuli fela
everyone wishes to living in their style,
yeah,
having a family, and everything is good.
but a house on a hill you find.
Youth is a time for exploring who you are and what you want to be. And it's also a time to decide where are you going and how are you going to get there. And it's also about choices. Choices you make now could affect the rest of your life. Some young people suffer to finish their education. And again, some young people live in violent communities where it's hard to live a peaceful life.